If you had asked me a year ago what a perfect start looked like, I would have told you about Evan and me. His voice, which seemed a little raspy in the morning, the long walks in the chilly November twilight, the cinnamon coffee that would appear on my desk at the office on the days when I especially hated the world and the mail. He had warm palms, an absurd green and blue checkered scarf, and a habit of laughing until he cried. So much so that my cheeks would hurt, and I would automatically laugh back. We clung to these simple things like talismans: the route along the river, the old movie theater that played classics, the closed bakery with the best croissants, and a table by the window at the Hyacinth Bar where we would run after work. We only went to Hyacinth once, in the second week of our acquaintance. And already then, when the waiter, smiling, handed us two mugs, one with foam, the second with a thin crust of ice on gin and tonic, Evan leaned towards my ear and whispered, "Let's sit over there in the corner. Just out of sight, okay?" He said it softly as if it were a matter of course, and I nodded. He just doesn't like crowds, I decided. Inside, it was surprisingly easy to believe any of his just we met through friends. Some kind of home party where the kitchen was too crowded for people and conversations, and in the living room they were arguing about movies. He was standing by the window, holding a paper cup and looking at the snow on the windowsill, as if counting snowflakes. "Are you an extrovert who pretends to be an introvert or vice versa?" I asked when I was nearby. "I'm an introvert who rents himself out for the evening," he replied. We found common ground faster than the coffee dried on the rims of the glasses. It seemed natural to me then. His "I don't like to post personal things," his silence on social media, his slight evasiveness when it came to plans. I was sure it was a matter of time. Everyone has a past. Everyone has scars that heal differently. What can I say? I myself have pieces of history that I don't wave around in public. I didn't rush anyone I asked carefully, he answered. "Give me a little, I'm just a private person." The word private sounded like a mantra. Smooth, comfortable, non-committal. 3 months passed, and I introduced him to my friends. My friends fell in love with him instantly. He knows how to listen. He knows how to joke on topic. He brings wine that they remember later. Mom, seeing us together, said, "Your eyes are calm with him." This is probably the best compliment I have received about our relationship. We took photos, he and my younger brother arguing over a board game, me and him in the kitchen. I laugh. He takes a step back, as if he needs more air. When I tried to put us in the same frame, he deftly turned away, covered himself with his hand, said, "Why? Look at the light, it's bad. Let's just keep this between us." At first it was nice, then it was weird. When I started talking about wanting to meet his friends, he glanced at his watch. "Next time today, the guys, but it's a long story. They're noisy. Family is a complicated topic." It's not that he's had any tragedies, no, it's just complicated. A word that's convenient to hide behind if you honestly don't explain anything. We walked through neighborhoods where no one knew me, and he chose routes on a map as if he were tracing blank spots with a pencil. My favorite park was 15 minutes from his house, but he always chose a park on the other side of town. "It's quieter there," he would say. If I tried to hold his hand in a crowded place, he would lightly hug my shoulders in a, "It's okay, it's just more convenient" way, and a minute later his hands would be in his pockets. When I once tried to make a snow angel on a playground and asked him to take a picture, he laughed and took a picture, but on my phone without him in the frame, with a strange caveat. "Please don't tag me," I said, "okay." Because I still believed that we were both just being protective, but time is a merciless thing. With each passing month, privacy became not a defense, but a wall, as if there was an invisible partition in our apartment. On my side, friends, plans, open windows. On his, silence and very neat traces I knew he had a sister. By the way, he once mentioned we used to build huts together as children. I knew the name of his boss. He involuntarily exhaled it, scolding some report, but I didn't see a single face from his world, not a single one. One day I blurted out, "Are you hiding me?" We were sitting in the kitchen, our pasta was cooling, and the lamp over the table made everything a little yellow, like in old movies. He looked up, paused for a second as if there was a catch to the question. "Number, I just don't like to make personal things public." "I'm not the public." I said, and I was surprised at how quiet it sounded. He sighed, touched my hand, and kissed my palm. You're just personal, he said. It was beautiful. It wasn't an answer. I tried to rationalize. Maybe his ex is clingy and he's afraid of crossing paths. Maybe his family is toxic and he's protecting me. Maybe there's some complicated story at work where an extra photo could do harm. Any version seemed plausible and at the same time too neat, like a new blanket used to cover a hole in the couch. Yes, it's pretty, but it doesn't mend the hole. The turning point was a funny, almost anecdotal incident. We were walking down the street, nothing foreshadowed it, and he suddenly tugged my elbow and turned into the yard. What happened? I asked, not having time to change steps. It's just… there. An acquaintance, he muttered, as if his throat had accidentally jammed. I looked at the street. No one special. A man with a dog, a girl with a backpack, an elderly couple holding hands. So what? I wanted to ask, but at that moment he had already taken me under the arch, where it smelled of dust and rotten leaves, and we walked through the block of yards like the heroes of a third-rate spy novel. I walked and thought, how much longer can I pretend that I'm okay? That night, I wrote him a long message, one of those rare instances where words come together more easily than they do out loud. I wrote, erased, wrote again. If we can't be public, I can't continue. It came out without hysteria, but it was harsh. I wrote about how for me, public doesn't mean putting things on display, but rather not hiding. That I don't ask for stories every day, but I want us to be able to go to a cafe in his area and have him introduce me if we bump into someone. I want to know his friends. I want to be more than a whisper. I pressed send and put my phone face down, as if it would determine whether someone would notice my heart pounding. He replied 10 minutes later, "You're exaggerating. We're doing well. Why ruin it?" Then, "It's all about the likes. You just want proof." Then, "I'm tired of arguing about something that doesn't change anything." I sat on the floor next to my bed, stroking the carpet with my fingers and thinking how strange it was. An argument about nothing, but inside, everything was changing. Because for the first time, instead of warm, soft care, I was getting a wall of words, behind which the same private person was hiding. We didn't see each other for 2 days. On the third day, he called, his voice both guilty and irritated. "I need time," he said. I said, "Me too," and hung up before he could say, "Wait." In the evening, to keep from going crazy, I started going through his things in my memory. A checkered scarf, a book with dog-eared corners, a bunch of keys. By the way, he had a small metal plate with an engraving on his keychain. I remembered it suddenly, like a picture emerging. Oval, cool to the touch, with 2 letters intertwined thinly and gracefully. I then asked, "Whose initials are these?" He smiled. "Long story." And hid the keys in his pocket. I sat in my kitchen, where the lamp made everything the same yellow, and caught myself wanting this long story. The real one without cuts. I want it so much that my hand itself reached for my jacket. I took his forgotten check out of my pocket. We had taken dry cleaning for 2, and for some reason I still had the check. It had the letter's surname on it, not at all the one I was used to. And I've definitely never seen such a name on his email. I reread the print 3 times, then exhaled and picked up the phone. "Evan, we need to talk today." The screen blinked briefly. "Typing." Appeared in response, and I suddenly felt cold, as if all the privacy he had been holding on to had suddenly ceased to be a curtain and turned into a thick shadow. At that moment, the doorbell rang, 1 second. A woman's face flashed on the intercom display, vaguely familiar, as if I had seen it in a photo that I was not allowed to like. And she said into the phone, "Hello, are you Lena? We need to talk. It's about Evan." I opened the door, and the cold air from the corridor hit me in the forehead like a weightless but offensive slap. The woman on the intercom screen turned out to be real, at arm's length. About 30 years old, maybe a little more. Clean features, a smooth ponytail, a coat without a single thread, and eyes in which there was neither anger nor confusion. Only that dangerous, heavy concentration with which people hold a glass in their palms to the brim so as not to spill it. "I'm Lara," she said. "Can I come in for a couple of minutes?" I let her in automatically. In the hallway, she silently glanced at my shoes, at the basket with scarves. His checkered one was on top, as if on purpose, at the hook with keys. She didn't need to ask anything. This attentiveness was a part of her. We sat down in the kitchen. I put the kettle on so that at least something would make noise in the room, and not just the blood in my ears. Lara took off her gloves and put them next to her without bending her fingers. The skin on her ring finger was light, but with a thin, pale mark where something had clearly once been. "This will sound strange," she began, and suddenly smiled tiredly, defenselessly. "No, it's wrong. This will sound ugly, but I have no other way. It's about Evan, or—" She narrowed her eyes slightly. "About Ilya." The kettle boomed like an old locomotive. The name, which did not coincide with my Evan, struck not with thunder but with coal. Black, silent, very real. "He introduced himself to you as Evan," said Lara. "He uses it like that on his phone and in his email. It's convenient for his work. He changed names like coats in the spring. I know this, and the reason, and I know that you've had it for almost a year. I'm sorry I came like this, but—" She shook her head. "I've put up with a lot of things, but I can't live in the fog of someone else's privacy anymore." I listened and understood that every word she said was like a needle testing the fabric for tearing. Believe it or not, the seams will crunch no matter what. "How did you find me?" I asked, clutching my cup with my fingers, even though the tea hadn't been poured yet. "Family rate," she said, as if apologizing for the banality. "Actually not family, but our joint bill from the old days. The operator has the itemization. I wasn't looking for anyone specifically. I just woke up one night and saw that he had been talking to Lena for an hour and 40 minutes after 2 in the morning. In the morning, I Googled the number, then, on the open page of the coffee shop, your review with a photo from the balcony. I recognized the house by the lights and cornices. The rest is feet and cold." She said Lena softly, like the name of a child she doesn't want to hurt, and suddenly she became adult to the point of trembling. "I didn't come to make a fuss," said Lara. "I came to tell the truth if you and I both want it. He's my husband. Formally, yes. On paper, yes. Emotionally." She spread her hands. "We've been neighbors for ages. He spends the night at my place, sometimes at someone else's. We have a strange common past and an even stranger present. His privacy isn't about you. It's about everyone, about the impossibility of choosing, about his eternal acrobatics on a thin rope between I mean nothing and I mean everything. He's not hiding you, but himself." I didn't know what to do with this husband. It sat on the table like a third cup and moved away if you moved the plate, but it didn't disappear. I tried to remember all his difficult, all his give me time, all his I don't like to take it out, and they suddenly folded into a neat cardboard house. "It's easy to blow and it's beautiful to watch the walls fly. How long have you—" The voice broke and came back hoarse. "How long have you been together?" "In total, 7 years," she answered calmly. "In reality, to be honest, well, the last 2 we've been living like neighbors. He leaves, comes, leaves things, takes them. He doesn't promise anything. He pretends it was an accident. Do you want to ask why I didn't kick him out?" For the first time, she looked straight into my pupils and not around me. "Because I also believed in the honesty of privacy for a long time, until I saw that it was just a very beautiful word for cowardice. The word cowardice cut the oxygen into microscopic pieces. I saw his metal keychain again, the intertwined letters S.A., Savelyev, Ilya Savelyev, dry cleaning receipt. My internal puzzles clicked with unnatural clarity, like switches in the entrance hall. "I didn't know," I said stupidly. It wasn't a fact. It was a diagnosis. I really didn't know about the bills, or the 7 years, or how wide the mark from a removed ring can be. Lara nodded. She didn't look like a winner. She didn't look like the first one. She looked like a person who had carried someone else's silence for too long and was now carefully placing it on the table because her hands were shaking. "Ah, he has a reason." "Of course he does." She continued in a different voice, reached into her bag and took out her phone. "I won't present evidence. I didn't come from the police station, but here—" She turned the screen. "There are 2 people in the photo, and they really were beautiful. He is very young in a light suit. She is in a simple, smooth white, that same soft filter of joy that you can't buy. No likes, no signatures, only two faces. 7 years ago, said Lara, and here is 2 years ago. We are in the kitchen, he is laughing, and here is a month ago, the credits of the series and his elbow. He is everywhere. In part, in piece, he is everywhere, like a ghost that doesn't go away. I looked at these shots and thought how much they had in common with my tape. There are his elbows there too, his voice past the microphone, his laughter off camera. As if we both lived with a man edition and not a manhole. Why did you come to me? I asked. So that, so that I would let you go? So that, so that we would quarrel with him and he would ensure your integrity. Forgive me for being so direct. To stop dividing the silence, said Lara. He's not hiding one of us. He's hiding himself. And while we both agree to his rules, he'll whisper the same phrases into two different kitchens. I wanted to know if you agree to continue living as a stranger's secret. And if you don't agree, think about how to tell him this out loud, so that he'll finally see that the air is shared and there's only one way out. The way out is to choose. The silence stretched out like chewing gum that they try to make into a bubble and don't dare exhale. I didn't promise anything. There was too much inside: resentment, pity, laughter on the verge of hysteria, and also anger, almost gratitude, for the fact that the world has finally stopped being powdered. And fear, because now something will have to be done, not to think endless circles. The phone shook on the table. Evan appeared on the screen. I saw Lara's cheekbone twitch. He was calling me, not her. Such a trifle, but somehow it nailed all our roles to the wall. Will you answer? She asked. No, I said. I'll write. The fingers straightened the message like a sheet. Come now, we need to talk. Do you know the address? He read it instantly. In 20 minutes came in response. I didn't have time to think whether it was good or bad. I just got up and cleared the unnecessary items from the table. This stupid utilitarianism saves when your jaws are cramping from tension. Lara, meanwhile, stood by the window, looked at the yard where the cat slid between the cars, and quietly said, Thanks for listening. I can leave if it makes you feel better. Don't go, I replied. If we're already setting up the lights on the stage, let him see how many of us are here. This phrase sounded as if I had been rehearsing it for 6 months. It was the only honest one I could afford. Lara sat back down. We drank tea in silence. The clock on the stove ticked like a metronome. Every minute was a blade, and we both carefully held it with our fingers so as not to cut ourselves too much before the one who brought it arrived. The doorbell rang quietly, almost delicately, like a person who is afraid of his own volume. I opened it. He stood on the threshold in his checkered scarf, tired, with eyes that immediately began to look for an excuse in the room, even before entering. He met my eyes, then, over my shoulder, with Lara. His hand jerked like a man who wants to catch a fallen glass, but realizes that it is already in pieces. Hi, I said, stepping back to let him in. And as he crossed the threshold, our gazes interlocked like the teeth of gears, and I suddenly clearly understood. Now that very private truth would begin, from which he had been running through the courtyards for so many months. He sat on the edge of his chair as if he was ready to jump up at any moment and say that this was all a misunderstanding, a rehearsal, a farce. His scarf had slipped, and he mechanically straightened it, found his cup with his eyes, and did not touch it. The air in the room seemed to have changed. Now it tasted of iron. I suddenly saw him in a new way, not as a man I love, but as a silhouette in which light and dark stripes alternate, and you constantly catch a good angle to convince yourself. He is all about the light. Hello, he said again more quietly. What's going on? We're having a conversation, Lara answered, and without looking at me added, No, it's difficult. No, give me time. No privacy. He blinked. A look of resentment flashed across his face, that childish, stupid one when you're caught doing something sticky. Then irritation, then fatigue. His fingers found the keychain in his pocket, clicked the metal. Ilya, I said, saying the name out loud for the first time, checking how it felt on my tongue. Sit down normally, we're not on the windowsill. We need to put all the parts in one box, not shake them separately. He looked at me briefly as if he wanted to object to the name itself and then decided to leave this fight for later. He sat up straighter. He took a breath. Okay, he said. I'll explain. Lara smiled the way people smile who have heard, I'll explain 100 times and have learned not to believe it in advance. I felt anger stir inside me, at him, at myself, at how easily we allowed words to push reality aside. Start with something simple, I suggested. Are you married? He was silent for a long time. The silence hung like a wet towel, heavy and sticky. Formally, yes, he exhaled. But there is no but, interrupted Lara. There is a stamp, joint bills, and Sunday dinners at your mother's. There are things I have, things she has, and your ability to fit between cabinets without hitting the doors. There is your choice, not to choose. He pressed his lips together. His gaze darted to me, not as a plea for mercy, but as a nod. Play along. Something clicked in me. I didn't play along. Why am I a secret? I asked. Not, why don't you like social media, but why can't I walk next to you down your street without looking back? Why did you turn into courtyards? Why didn't my name exist in your world? He rubbed his temples. When he gets tired, he always gets this birthmark near his cheekbone, barely noticeable. I caught myself on the stupid desire to touch it and pulled my fingers away. Because, he began, and I heard in advance the set of familiar bricks from which he built the walls. Because since childhood I have lived between expectations my mother has always... He hesitated, chose the word more carefully. Demanded correctness. With Lara, everything has long been not about love, but we are a family in the eyes of everyone around me. I have tried many times to say that I want it differently. Each time, he shrugged. Each time I put it off, I did not. He looked for understanding in me like a cat for a warm place in the sun. I did not want to introduce you to this field I tried to protect you myself, her. You took care of the comfort, Lara said calmly. And you put us under the uniform so that we wouldn't stick out anywhere. It's not that simple, he got angry. Lara, you know how it all was. He turned to me. We've really been neighbors for a long time. I'll file for divorce. I was going to. I kept going. And he leaned back in his chair, sucked in a breath. And at some point I realized that it's easier to lie than to destroy. This phrase hit the mark. It's easier to lie than to destroy. She was honest, and that's why she became unbearable. You chose the easy, I said, feeling my voice fall on the table in a flat line. I choose the difficult. Ilya, I'm not asking for likes. I'm asking for my steps next to yours to exist in the light. If you're not ready to walk with me like this, I don't want to walk with you at all. He closed his eyes. Lara was silent. I heard my pulses being counted inside me. He opened his eyes and stared at a point on the table. I was afraid that if I left officially, everything would collapse. Mom would stop talking to me. Colleagues, he grinned. Colleagues would think I was unreliable. Yes, I built myself caves. Yes, I only invited you there at night because during the day people would come with flashlights. He clenched his fists. I really want you to stay. Where did she stay? Asked Lara. Here, in the kitchen between us, or in another cave? He turned his gaze to me, and it was the same gaze that had been holding me by the throat for a year, warm, pleading, almost childish. Give me time, give me a little more, not now, later. No, I said before he could even formulate the request. Not in a week, not after the holidays, not when Mom calms down. Now, either you come out into the light and we talk about how to live on, or you go somewhere you feel comfortable hiding without me. He opened his mouth, closed his eyes for a second, became the same, honest and scared, and I, to my horror, felt sympathy because I really understood this fear, the fear of destroying a familiar, albeit crooked house. But I also understood the price of wait. It is paid with my years. Lara quietly put the envelope on the table. Thick, white, official. This is not blackmail, she said. This is a choice translated onto paper. A mutual divorce. My signature is there. Yours is not. I will put it if you really choose otherwise, not because you were caught, but because you decided it yourself. Or, she spread her hand slightly. Leave it as is. But then you will honestly admit that you want to live like a shadow, and you will stop attracting the living to yourself. He touched the envelope as if he was afraid of getting burned. He didn't open it for a long time. I looked at his hands, familiar, beloved, and thought that I no longer trusted them without signatures. Can I say something? He asked quietly, surprisingly honestly. I really thought I was protecting you. That if you never introduce anyone to anyone, no one will get hurt so much. That privacy is a soft blanket, not a cage. This is my mistake. Big me. He looked up at me. If you give me another chance, I'm ready to call my mom right now to tell her that I have a girlfriend, that I won't be there on Sunday, that we're getting a divorce. Ready. He took a sharp breath like water had gone the wrong way. Ready to come out of all my caves. Just, please don't go now. Lara looked at me, not at him, as if we both understood. Words are a tree, but the roots are important. Call me, I said. Not for me. For the truth, I'm not promising anything, but I want to see that you can stand in the light and not just talk about it. He nodded. It was clear from his face that two forces were fighting inside him: habit and determination. He took out his phone. His fingers trembled. The screen flashed. He scrolled through his contacts, and for the first time I saw them as a map. Mom, Dad, Lara, Sergey, work, Timur, Jim, and somewhere there, me, Lena. I was a line on the list that he was hiding from everyone's view. I suddenly felt almost physically ill from this image, as if I was being put back in the box. Call, Lara repeated calmly. He pressed Mom. The phone rang with beeps, first, second, third. On the fourth, he abruptly hung up, as if he had been burned not by the envelope, but by his own determination. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. I can't right now. She has high blood pressure. If I say it wrong? Lara laughed, quietly, joylessly. Here it is, you're not so. It's always there. It's the same as after the holidays. It's from the same nest, Ilya. We are not your parents. We are adults who have been breathing your then for a year some more, others less. There's nothing to breathe. I felt something inside me sinking wearily, as if there were a staircase beneath your feet, and you finally stop pretending that it leads up somewhere. Okay, he said unexpectedly. His voice became even and almost angry, at himself, at us, at the world. Okay, I'll call, but... He swallowed. But you'll listen too, so that later they won't say that I was hiding again. He pressed the call button. The beep stretched like chewing gum from childhood. On the fifth, Mom took, hello, a slight wheeze, a familiar intonation of overtired concern. Ilyusha, where are you? Don't keep Lara, she has an early one tomorrow. And don't forget about Sunday, I've already ordered the chicken. He inhaled, I could hear the air expanding in his chest. Mom, he said, we need to talk. Lara and I... He looked at us. We're getting divorced. The pause on the other end of the line was not a pause, but a break. Then came quick, slurred words. What? What kind of nonsense is this? Ilya, don't start. Sunday is Aunt Olya's anniversary. You'll come with your wife, like a human being. I'm not going to listen to your... She hesitated. These new words of yours. Let's get a divorce. No one is getting a divorce, do you hear me? Ilya. He closed his eyes. His lips turned white. I saw a thin vein bulge on the bridge of his nose, the same one that always appears when he's holding back a scream. Mom, he repeated more quietly, this is my decision. Your decision is to be decent, she snapped. Decent people don't run after women, don't drag anyone into the house, and don't disgrace their mother. On Sunday, I'm expecting you and Lara, and then I heard what I was afraid of, and for some reason expected at the same time. And without your... What's it called? Don't even think about showing up. I don't need a heart attack. Do you understand me? The screen blinked. An incoming message appeared over the conversation shamelessly, like a neon sign. Mom, confirm that you'll be with Lara on Sunday. Don't come without her. He held the phone to his ear. We were silent. Lara looked at the table. I looked at his fingers. Mom, he said finally, I'll call you back. He dropped it. The silence returned and sat between us. He put the phone on the table as if it wasn't a gadget but evidence. Do you see? He whispered unexpectedly, desperately. Do you see what's behind the wall? There's a prison there, I'm not exaggerating. Everything there is, like in a museum display case. Beautiful, correct, and dead. I'll take it now and... He reached for the phone again like a life preserver. I'll post a photo right now. Let it all explode, let everyone see. Let there be light. He opened the camera, he raised it towards us. For a second I saw my face on the screen. Tired, adult, alien his in the background, on the edge. No, I said, taking his wrist. This isn't about photos. This isn't about likes. This is about whether you can call not your mother but yourself and say, I'm not living like this anymore, and then endure it, without an audience. He lowered his hands, and it was as if for the first time that evening he became truly quiet. A vibration crashed into this silence. The screen lit up again, a new message. He didn't have time to remove it, and we both saw it. Mom, we're waiting for you and Lara on Sunday. Don't come without her. Below it, another one from above came a moment later, cold and final like a seal on an envelope. Dad. Son, we hope there are no surprises. Family is more important. He looked up at us, and I realized that the real denouement was just beginning to stick its fingers down our throats. I looked at the screen, where the messages Mom and Dad lay side by side like two cold windows. And at that moment I understood what I was so afraid of. Our roles are not accidental. They are assigned. For some it is to maintain propriety, for others it is to soften, for others it is to wait, for others it is not to rock the boat. My role is not to be noticeable, and if I don't change it myself now, no one will change it for me. I won't be your corridor, I said, and was surprised at how calmly the phrase sounded. Not until Sunday, not until anyone's anniversaries. Ilya looked up at me. For the first time, there was no request in his gaze, only pure fear and something else that looked like shame. I'll sign, he exhaled and turned slightly towards Lara. Tomorrow at the notary's, I can't do it that fast. It's like... He hesitated, grinning helplessly. It's like I'm learning to breathe again. Breathing is a skill, said Lara, not softening her voice. But we are both not your oxygen masks. He nodded. He took the envelope. He opened it as if he were opening a wound. He looked at the paper for a long time, then carefully put it back as if he was afraid to tear it. And this neatness of his, where everything had been rough and indistinct for years, suddenly seemed untouching and out of place. I'm not promising you, I turned to him, that if you sign, we will automatically become public and happy. Nothing like that. I can only promise one thing, that I will not return to the shadows. Not to you, not to anyone. If you want to go with me, we'll go out into the world. If not, we won't go. He swallowed. His fingers found the keychain again, a small oval metal plate with two letters intertwined so tightly that they seemed like one. I held out my palm. Give it to me, she asked. He obediently put the bundle in it. The cold of the metal hit my skin. I brought it closer to my eyes. Is Ilya Savelyev, not Evan. Not a man without a last name. As if this touch wasn't enough to finally believe that all of this wasn't a drawn-out experiment on my powers of observation. Take them. I put the keys back in his hand. They won't open my house. He stood up. He staggered, like a man who had sat on the wrong stool for too long and now his legs don't remember where the floor is. He took a step toward the door. He stopped. He turned to Lara. I'm sorry. She nodded, without pathos, without fireworks. How people nod to each other on the platform, realizing that one train will leave before the other anyway. He came out, the door closed softly, not theatrically. And for some reason, I remembered how at the end of summer we walked to the river for the first time, and he suddenly exhaled. You know what a brave face you have. It seemed funny and beautiful to me then. Now it's the truth which I've finally approached with my feet. We were silent for a long time. I heard the air in the radiators waking up and going out one after another, and the kettle, forgotten on the stove, making an indistinct sound, as if trying to remember why it was turned on. Lara was the first to break the silence. "I didn't know you'd say stay," she said, looking at the curtains, "and I probably had no right to expect it. We're too different. But you know." She turned to me. "I'm glad this day has witnesses, that it won't get off with another difficult." "Thank you for coming," I replied. "Even though it may sound strange, without you, I would have—" I shrugged. For a long time, I would have called him private. Lara smiled, a tired, human smile. "We women sometimes become mirrors for each other," she said, "in which we see not only ourselves." We exchanged numbers. Not as conspirators and not as enemies, but as people who found themselves in the same boat in the middle of a not very kind river and rowed to the shore, each with his own oar, but in the same direction she left, I was left alone. The night sat on the windowsill, pulled up its legs, and watched me walk around the apartment from corner to corner. The phone would vibrate occasionally, briefly like fear. "Can I talk?" "Where are you?" "I feel bad." "Sorry." No photos, no loud gestures, only words, for the first time, as if without playful bows. I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to punish, because I wanted to give the silence a chance to do its job. In the morning, I woke up before the alarm, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to put on someone else's clothes. Everything seemed very simple in the kitchen. 2 glasses, 1 knife, breadcrumbs. I took the phone and wrote to Lara. "If necessary, I'll tell the court that I lived like a ghost for a year. No details." She answered almost immediately. "Thank you. I hope it won't be necessary, but knowing that we are not alone is already a lot." Ilya called at noon. I picked up the phone. We are both not children to play didn't see. The voice was different. Empty like a train station after the last train. "I'm at the notary's," he said. "I'm signing." "Okay," I replied, and before he could change the subject, I added, "It's not for me. It's for myself. I don't make promises." "I know," he whispered, "but can I come in later, just—" He paused, "just to say goodbye." I looked at my kitchen, where everything suddenly fell into place, like a picture that they had been trying to assemble for a long time from the wrong side. I wanted to say yes, out of politeness, out of habit, out of that strange feeling that it's right. But I remembered last night, his "not now" and my oxygen mask that I had to keep in my pocket. My whole life, and I said, "No goodbyes. This is what we do best. Let's try what we couldn't do before. End it honestly." He was silent. Then he seemed to smile, without joy but with understanding. "You're not a villain, Lena," he said after a pause. "You're a boarder. I've never seen it. Thank you for being like this." "Take care of yourself," I replied, and hung up. The week flew by as if in fast motion. Fragments of a conversation with a psychotherapist. Privacy and secrecy are different things. Repainted nails, yes, that same shameless red that Mom calls girls scream. An evening at Gyatsint. Dasha, Mark, and I drank something tart, and for the first time in a year, I didn't catch a glance at the exit or the corners. On the third day, I went to that same park near his house. I sat on a bench where we had never sat before. I breathed in air that no longer owed anything to anyone. I watched a boy of about 7 argue with a dog about who would run first, and laughed out loud, without a censor in my head. Ilya wrote a couple of times, nothing extra. Signed, moved in, Mom's is having a hard time. I'm in therapy. I read and answered in monosyllables without diligence. At some point, he sent a photo of a window reflecting the morning light. Signature, learning to live without curtains. I caught myself thinking a warm thought, not a loving one, no, a human one. Let it work out. Lara wrote a month later, "The decision is ready. We are both free. If you want, we will celebrate." We met in the same coffee shop where I once left a review with a view of the balcony. Her laughter became easier. I asked how her parents were. She smiled bitterly. "My mother always believed that a good man is one who is not heard. Now it is quiet at my house, but in a different way." We sat for a while, then went outside. The snow was light, like flour on the table. I said, if you ever catch yourself shortening the name of a new person to a convenient nickname, slap his hands. She nodded. And you slap yourself if you feel that you are again being offered a life walking along the wall? We hugged each other, not as new friends, but as people who had survived one fire and were now already agreeing in advance where to hang the fire extinguisher. In the spring, I met a man in line at the cinema. It was not at first sight, not fireworks, not inhale, and minus all my thoughts at once. It was exactly the opposite. Calm. He said, "You also don't like to sit on the edge because it's drafty there?" I laughed. He added, "My name is Artyom. I am not private, I am just quiet." I marked this phrase inside, like a sticker, fragile. We went into the hall next to each other and sat down where everyone was equally drafty. At the exit, he extended his hand. "Can I write?" I answered, "Right." And for the first time, I didn't feel like they were going to blindfold me. Told him about Hyacinth, about the park near someone else's house, about my rule. No later, only now or never. He said, "Sounds like adulthood." And something in his voice turned out to be exactly that, not promising what he can't do, but offering to do what he can do. Sometimes I find myself wanting to defend myself faster than I'm attacked. It's a side effect of the kitchen where I was taught to speak in whispers, but I practice saying yes where I want yes and no where it really is no. I write, delete, write. Taking a photo against the background of a window. Mine, not someone else's, and not sending it to anyone, just watching how light can be honest. When people ask me, "Ada, was I that scoundrel who destroyed the good?" I smile because now I know for sure. The good does not collapse from the light. It grows from it. The shadows in which we hide are not now, later. Mom will feel bad. Colleagues will say, are destroyed. And this destruction is sometimes the only chance for air. In the summer, I was walking along the embankment, already the only one where you didn't need to look for white spots on the map, and I saw a man in a green and blue scarf. My heart, as always, twitched. That's how memory muscles work. But it wasn't him. Just someone else who loves a cage. I smiled, just a little, and walked on. In the evening, I wrote a short post, not as proof, but as an anchor for myself. I am no longer someone's secret. I am a person visible. No photos, no marks, only text, and under it, a comment from Lara. Same thing. I reread it, turned off my phone, and went out onto the balcony. The city was making noise from below, like an old radio, sometimes with a crackle, sometimes clearly. I put the tea on, and the steam rose like a white column. This white contained everything. The fear that I lived through, the softness that I don't want to lose, the border that I raised like a flag. I thought about it, not dramatically, just evenly, and suddenly realized what phrase I wanted to leave at the end as a note to myself. Privacy is when we protect what we value. Secrecy is when we hide what we fear. I choose the first. And, for the first time in a long time, the period at the end of this thought did not seem like a catch to me. It was just that, a period.